And I'll hit the timer here. Away we go.
Good to go.
All right.
So my name is Mac. So I went to look into the structure of the market, and I tried searching a lot of things at first: referral marketing, like app marketing, mobile app platforms that related to that sort of that kind of base, and I ran into a lot of trouble finding reports and industry reports and that sort of thing. So I kind of tried to hone in on just the mobile app market, and kind of found a lot of data behind smartphone ownership being driven by age, and that 2/3 of the age group of 18 to 34 owned a smartphone. So that kind of suggested to me that it kind of apps really need to serve needs of younger adults, which is tough because when I think about referral marketing, I don't necessarily always think about younger adults. So that was an interesting trade-off that I found. I then kind of looked into who's downloading apps, how often they're downloading apps, and kind of found that it's a really discretionary activity, and it ranked behind surfing on the internet, capturing images, utilizing social media, and listening to music. So app downloading actually came 5th, which I thought was kind of interesting because personally I actually look for apps a lot and download apps pretty often. Again, the 18 to 34 range came in when talking about the downloading of apps, and they actually were talking about the free versus the paid apps as well, and they said that only 1 in every 9 people downloaded 6 or more paid apps on their smartphone, which I thought was kind of low. And they said that only 8% of downloaders would ever pay for an app when there was a free version, and I thought that was definitely true because I have a lot of apps that I know they're paid versions, but I just remain on the free version. One thing I thought was kind of funny when relating to refer-on is that the most common way people said that they find new apps is through personal recommendations or referrals. So I thought that was kind of a cool tie-in to refer-on, and maybe something going forward that I know that's kind of like a competitive thing, referring other apps through your own app, but maybe it might be a cool idea, if you're working with certain companies that have mobile platforms. And then one of the other cool things that I found, which I'm sure you guys know, is that 92% of the people surveyed said that they trust recommendations from friends and family more than they do traditional forms of marketing. So then I kind of went into collaborators and who I thought could help you guys out. And obviously one of the obvious ones was potential companies and people that will eventually get onto your site, get onto the app, and then be able to, again, the whole referral marketing, move through and then, say, hey, we're on this new app, you guys should check it out. And on that same avenue, current companies, I thought about the Celtics and Mazda and how the Celtics could be a huge advantage for you because they're actually often a market leader in the NBA. I looked into a lot of that, and maybe them talking to other teams and saying, hey, this is something we're doing with this app. You guys should check it out. It's worked really well for us. And then also jumping across borders into the different sports. We've had some of the Boston sports executives present here, and they've talked about how sometimes, not often, but they do share ideas across the different sports because they actually are sort of competitors when they're both in season, but that they do share ideas. And I actually also had sites like this listed as competitors, like an Angie's List or a Yelp or something like that. But if there were a way to integrate that into the app, so not only are you being referred through the app, you can also see the reviews and kind of have them all in one place, as opposed to, if I'm referred to, a restaurant and then I have to go online to Yelp, as opposed to if I'm still on refer-on, maybe I can just stay there and see the reviews there. Then I kind of looked more into the context. I won't really go into the smartphone market growing. I think that we're kind of all aware of that. I'll just kind of point out some of the things that I found were interesting. The average number of apps owned by a smartphone user in 2012 was 41, which was up from 32 in 2011, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I actually counted the apps on my phone, and I have 65 apps, so I was a little above that. I also found that mobile apps are being used 10% more than the mobile web from 2011 to 2012. And another thing that I thought was almost kind of a challenge for you guys was app usage. It said from 2011 to 2012 it really didn't increase. It only went up per day by about 2 minutes is what most people said. So, thank you.
Good timing.
Thank you.
Maybe, 60 seconds or so questions, anything you want some clarification on? Or?
What we're using as your source on this stuff?
Mintel was one of the sources, and then Nielsen, I think.
Was there anything in that source that was talking about kind of like the lack of, you're talking about app usage, about not going up?
Yeah.
One thing that's been sort of seen out there is that a lot of dedicated apps are just not getting used at all. They sit on somebody's phone, they don't get used, get pushed to the back pages. Was there anything in those sources that talked about that?
Yeah, I did find something that I'm hoping it's in my notes somewhere. It talked about which apps are being used most, and I think weather apps were actually #1 most downloaded and most used. And then I had something about it's in my notes, but it talks about I think it was service app, or it was mobile websites that had a mobile platform and how often those are being downloaded. And I think it was 25% had downloaded them and 18% had used it in the past week.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Nick.
Yep.
Who's next?
How's it going, guys? I'm David. I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit about the first 3 of the 5 C's and how they apply to refer-on. The first one's customers, and the question I tried asking is what needs is refer-on trying to satisfy? And I think that what you guys are trying to do with is just making referrals really easy. And I like the fact that you're being able to send all pertinent company information for someone with just a touch of a button using one source. And I also thought that centralizing information on your smartphones is a great way to do that, because CBS News reported over half of American adults own a smartphone device as of June 2013. So now you're no longer dealing with business cards, or like Mr. Shaker said, like you're not dropping the ball anymore. It's something that could be done instantly once you meet someone and you think that you could help them out. I also like to talk about company skills. What special competence does refer-on possess? That was a question I was trying to answer here. And I like that the application's lifetime is infinite and it retains all its customers/users. An example I put down here is Groupon. A lot of times Groupon customers, they use it once, they go and they use whatever they purchase, and after that purchase is done, they forget about it. They're not going to necessarily use that company that they just went to or service. I also like the use of social media. Like Mac was saying with millennials, we're a big we use apps a lot. And according to the DIS factor, 85% of the people are reserved and not really that outgoing. And I think that the use of social media makes customers or users more comfortable, because they're talking to people that they already know. They're using relationships that they already have. They don't necessarily need to go out and like expose themselves if they're not feeling comfortable. I think the accessibility is really great. Refer-on it's available obviously through the iTunes App Store, which we're all pretty much familiar with, and Google Play in case someone doesn't really have an iPhone. As far as competition goes, I tried to see who was competing with Refer-on. Many companies are useful to certain regions. Refer-on customer / users the locations are limitless. And I also talk about how competitors often forget small businesses. This is an app that can be used by small businesses. It relies on customer and user network, so the size of the company isn't pertinent. So a smaller company could use this and actually gain a lot of success by using it. I have here that 45% of service businesses are chosen based on recommendations by others. So that's a pretty good percentage, just relying basically on referrals. And let's I told everyone else I'd be talking about. I don't want to step
You
on
got
it.
2 minutes, you want to just add something else?
I don't want to really
All
mess
right.
up the person going
Okay.
after me. I didn't expect
That's
to
fine.
go that fast,
That's a team
sorry.
player right there.
Took one for the team. You got
Well,
good
he could have just ran over all their stuff and
Yeah,
check
that's-
mark on timing, right?
yeah, go on second and go, see ya.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So, some questions?
So it's interesting, we can use the 2 minutes to talk about a couple of things. You mentioned Angie's List, and you mentioned Groupon, and you mentioned Yelp. One of the things that we're seeing, if you really dial back, have any of you guys ever met Woody Benson? He teaches here, he's a venture capital guy. He's done a ton of deals. He went to Bentley, he teaches alongside of Perry. When you talk about data, Woody goes crazy. So if you really step away for a second and you really want to think big at this, does a Yelp review matter to me? I mean, it could be someone in their mom's basement, you know, wearing a Dr. Seuss hat on their head that's telling me how nice this restaurant is. Or does the restaurant that got 1,000 referrals last year really matter? So the question is, when you say, what's our data worth? What is it worth? Angie's List, it's a review site. These are review sites. This is what I was talking to you guys about. Angie's List, 30 million unique visitors. Okay, but in your thing, you say 45% are chosen based on recommendations. So as you guys think of this, I think it's important that you keep thinking about that big picture. Because Groupon, if I'm really good at getting a lot of second best customers, and I only have this much inventory left, why would I ever want to use Groupon? They want to rip my heart out, stamp on it, kill me, whatever. Their model is telling the customer you get great, great price, but as soon as you walk in with a Groupon, the waitress goes, oh, no tip, this person's a jerk. You know what I mean? So no one really wants to do it. You do it because there's money to be saved, but the experience for everybody sucks. So you're talking about competitors where we may actually put a dent in some of them with the data we're able to collect. We actually may be able to sell our data to Yelp and say, forget about what someone's opinion is. Let me tell you where the money went. So think about that a little bit as you start to present when you talk about our competitors and stuff.
And as far as like the Yelp thing goes, those are people that you don't really even know. So if you're using Referon, you could be using one of your peers that like you trust what they have to say and how they feel about something.
Isn't that the reason for Google Plus? Right, Google Plus wants your inner circle, so when you check out a restaurant, it goes, oh, Joe Shaker. And by the way, that's the last Mr. Shaker anybody's allowed to say. It's Joe. So Joe uses Grill 23, and Joe's in my circle. So Google, they don't care about the guy with the Dr. Seuss hat in his mom's basement. They want that. That's where Google Plus wants to ultimately go. You know, they don't want Yelps. They could have bought Yelp in a minute. They're not buying Yelp because they ultimately want to diminish Yelp. So that's important.
All right. Thank you, David. Good
Thanks.
job.
Hey, what? This is our new marketing head right there.
So my name is Rolanda, and I will be talking about the target markets. So Referon has the customer-to-customer target market, as well as employee-to-employee, professional-to-professional, and employee-to-hire. So with each target market comes strengths and challenges. So for the consumer-to-consumer market, the strengths are word of mouth. Obviously, is very popular. We rely heavily on reviews from others and feedback. But if it's coming from a trusted source, then we would be more likely to try a product or service that they recommend. In addition, for businesses, it increases their business revenues, and if there are incentives involved, then more consumers will be more likely to refer. The challenges that come along with this is that not everyone owns a smartphone. Of course, the young generation as well as the older generation may not have smartphones. Some may not know how to operate it, so they may be reluctant to even download the app, and some may be reluctant to give out personal information. With the professional-to-professional market, this is great for building business, forming alliances, and gaining business leads, and it promotes the exchange of business. In addition, you create clients and you retain clients. The challenge with this is some professions may not need outside referrals, so such as organizations like Pro or BNI, they have their own little circle of referrals, so they may not need outside referrals. Employee to employee is great for utilizing resources within an organization and large firms. It increases productivity. The only challenge is the business may not offer incentives to employees, so they may not interact with the app at all. And employee to hire, referrals are actually ranked the highest in recruiting employees. It's great because it comes from a trusted source. It makes it easier to filter through applicants so you can find the employee that will best fit your job description. It's great for the economy because it creates jobs. In addition to that, when you're hiring these applicants, they're more likely to stay in the business. The challenges with this is, again, there might not be incentives. It's tedious to filter through the applicants, or it might be tedious to remember to refer an employee. And in addition, it could jeopardize workplace diversity because the people that are being referred, it could be biased. And that's just a chart to show that referrals are ranked highest. And that's it. Any questions?
Melinda, can you talk about that last slide?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Keep the slides up, because I want to be able to ask you a question to the slide, if you would.
1 second. Sorry. This one right here?
Yeah. So that is, who is answering that question? In other words, is that HR managers? Is that hiring managers? You know,
I got it from a report,
Yeah.
or a hire report, so I'm not exactly.
external hire by
Yeah.
percentage. So by referrals, obviously number one, job boards, career site, etc.
And also through my research, I found that other articles, like news things like that, they also said referrals ranked the highest.
Right.
So.
Okay. Yep. Gentlemen.
Yeah, can you go back to target market?
Or,
Yeah, I just want to point out a couple of, what do I want to call them? I don't want to call them, I like the info, and I just want to just ask questions to the info. So, go back to the target market, to the beginning where you talk about target, right there. So, the question here is, one of the things that we talk about with this is, I liked your challenges, I liked everything, but what I want to do is sometimes I like to have a rebuttal for it and then just see what your answer is. So, reluctant to give out personal information. So really on a referral, if we're hanging out at a party and you say, hey, listen, I need to, whatever, get a restaurant or anything like that, and if it's me and it's you and we're friends and we know each other, then it's that trusted source, which we just discussed it on this side, but doesn't the trusted source take the edge off of giving a personal information?
It does, but for some people, if you're just meeting them for a first time at a party and you ask for their phone number to put them into your contacts, they might be
Right.
Depends. Different people out there.
Okay. And technologically challenged, and some people not have a smartphone, that's true. But what's this, over half adults in America have a smartphone, right? All right, so then can you go to the next one? I just want to look at some of these. All right, and then can you go to the next one? I just want to check out something else. When you put challenges on the employee to employee, what did you mean by, I know what you mean by no incentives. So we're not referring people to other parts of the business because no one's giving you a bonus or a reward. What do you mean by little engagement?
If they don't have incentives, they might not be willing to refer.
To play?
Yeah, to play basically.
And the lack of consistency is
Maybe they start referring, but then gradually they just fall back into their old phase.
so those three are really in conjunction. With no incentives, there's little engagement, and with little engagement, there's lack of consistency. So that's kind of a path. All right.
Can I just give you an interesting note on that, really to share? This actually came from one of our early adopters, Digital Lumens, and they weren't talking about the app as such. They were just talking about they were seeing a lower number of employee referrals, and the HR manager brought some of the employees in and said, we're not seeing many employee referrals here, and we pay $5,000 per hire. And they said, well, if you look out there in the marketplace, there's a couple of other companies just here in Boston, they pay their employees $30,000.
Wow.
So Yeah, it's like, why can we not do that?
Right.
So it's very interesting, is just, this incentive game is, what is the right incentive? Going from, we're hearing people just yesterday in our meetings where they're saying, we'd rather not see incentives, we'd rather it just be a pure experience, to people who are offering $30,000 for one employee. So, not sure what's right, but I think it's going to change, obviously, business to business. But I'd add that in there.
I think in many of the tech businesses where there's a real niche, you see the big money. In an average business that doesn't have the pressing need, obviously, the supply-demand equation drops, But, when you get to those very unique positions, maybe even programming apps, right now, there's big money on that. Versus you may have someone at an accounting firm that they need a guy that handles taxation, and that may be worth only $7,000. So,
I'd like to dialogue back and forth. Joe challenged you on the security and the sensitivity of the information. I think your response was accurate. We're hearing it in the marketplace, and that is, if you think about where Facebook was 3 or 4 years ago, and my wife took her 3 years before she jumped on board, it takes time for people to be comfortable to jump on something. The first reaction is to be like, whoa. Somebody who us said yesterday, look, we don't want somebody on the couch just referring people off their list to us. We want really true, genuine referrals. So I think it'll all kind of rub out and come in the end and be the type of thing that people will do it the right way that Joe's talking about. But it definitely is a challenge, and I think you pointed it out, and I think you rebutted it very well with Joe.
yeah, I also think that, remember, on information, if we're talking about name, phone number, and an email, it's really information I could search and find on you most likely, second of all, really. So, but I agree with you 100%. And just to discuss with Dan, I also believe that if you just referred 500 of your friends, you get such a backlash from your friends that multiple referrals is almost a check and balance, because you're going to ruin your social capital. Everyone's going to go, dude, what are you doing, dummy? Sending all these people. Are you out of your mind? You know what I mean? So there's a little bit in a natural referral, because it's a trusted source, there's a little bit of a natural check and balance in there, and that's maybe something we could explore as well as we go down.
It's that dilution, right? Don't dilute the...
Yeah, people look at you like you're a maniac.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Yep.
After pounding the first hole.
That's
That's the trap.
Okay, so what I'm going to start talking about is the high-tech product life cycle. Now, assuming since you guys have already started this business, you're going to have an idea what I'm going to be talking about. It's a little bit difficult to see, but right here you have your innovators. These are your techies. These are your guys that are always coming up with the new ideas, always wanting to start new businesses. They want to play with every piece of technology out there. So these guys are easy to get when it comes to the next great idea. They're always looking for that next great idea. They want to be able to innovate, and they want to be able to push things onto people. Your next group is your early adopters. From what Douglas has presented, I feel like the companies that you guys have attracted so far are in this area. Your techies, or the innovators, are the guys that sort of help start the company and come up with the idea. The early adopters are the ones saying, if we do this, if we take advantage of something that nobody else has, we can give ourselves a competitive advantage over the rest of the market. When you're talking in a very business, the corporate world today is all about what do I do or what do I have that no one else does. It's saying, oh, this person or this company has this and they're doing really well, why don't we have it? Why can't we do the same thing they're doing? So I feel if you're able to attract this market and get them to sign on like you have with the Celtics, with Mazda, with McGladrey, with Edward Jones, that's putting them ahead or giving them an advantage that potentially they have over the rest of their competitors. Because the referrals will attract, or not retract, but attract new customers. It's a way for them to say, let's test this out before anyone else has the ability to do it. And if it works, great. Then we have the ability to go forward and potentially not share the information with people and just keep using it for ourselves. If it doesn't, that's the risk they're willing to take. But in between here, which is not pictured, is something called the bowling alley strategy or crossing the chasm. I'm going to leave that for someone else that's later on. But a quick synopsis of it. When you're crossing the chasm in the bowling alley strategy, you want to take one target market within. So you want to break down your target market into 5 separate segments. Within that segment, you can even dilute it even more. You want to attract, okay, I want to attract the financial advisory industry in terms of referrals. Because if you get a registered investment advisor, oh, my guy's great, let me refer you to him. Oh, boom, 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 done. So I'll leave that for the next person. But here, late majority laggards, these are the people, once you have dominated the first half of the market, they're going to catch on. They won't try any new technology no matter what. They want to see results and have it be done before. And if it's successful, maybe they'll attempt it. The next thing I'm going to talk about is Rogers factors of innovation diffusion. Now there are 5 factors in this innovation diffusion. I've only listed 3. The first one is compatibility. Referon has apps with the Android and iOS. 85% of the smartphone market is Android and iOS. To me, that's dominating the market. There is no other market share in terms of smartphone. Yeah, you have the Windows Phone and Google, but I mean, so far, that's it. Everyone's got an Android or iOS. So with your apps and compatibility, that's it. People want to see ease of use, which leads into the next part, simplicity. With Referon, it's 3 easy steps. Boom, information, press a button, send, done. What Joe talked about earlier is Referon is making something that's been done for hundreds of years into a simple way. People want what they can do as simple as possible. I mean, for me, I don't want to put in all the work to fill out a paperwork and mail it and send a referral. If I can just type it in and send it off, it's a lot easier. The next is observability, but Referon would be a little bit more difficult for people to observe. Referon needs to be visible to others through results. The results you're going to get is through the results of the firms you partner with. So Mazda, Celtics, Edward Jones, McGladrey, if they have more customers coming to them, that's your results. I feel like your results aren't necessarily all the businesses you integrate with. It's going to be the customers or the new business that those firms generate, and I'm sure you'll be able to gather data on that. And the last factor is, or actually, it's not really a factor, but I feel when testing out a new product or something new, people do all these steps subconsciously. You go through, can I use it? How easily can I use it? Are other people doing it? Can I see the results? And it's not necessarily do a checklist, like writing it down. It's just a subconscious way that I feel human beings work. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Questions?
Yeah, can you just explain a little bit more? I haven't heard of the Rogers factors. Can you just explain a little bit more about
Sure, yeah.
background to that?
It was actually something listed on our assignment, so I figured I'd do more research on it. So there's the 5 factors listed in order are compatibility, simplicity, trialability, observability, and simplicity. It's listed right there. So trialability is more, I feel, related to the simplicity. That's why I didn't list it. It's, can you test it? Can you see, I want to play with it first before I feel comfortable with it. I want to be able to decide for myself whether it's good, whether it's not. And that's more going back to the high-tech product life cycle. The innovators, they don't care about trialability. They're just going to go with it. That's more for the early adopters and early majority. If they want to say, I want to put my toe in the water first before I say yes. And then the compatibility is how easily can you integrate with the market? What is everyone doing in terms of your product? Is there a way we can just seamlessly integrate? And I feel you guys have, since it's Android and iOS, and 85% of smartphone business is Android and iOS.
So who is Rogers?
Everett Rogers is the guy who wrote this paper, like probably in the 1950s, about how innovation comes to market, and those 5 factors that Brendan talked about are just sort of things that he noticed. If it's easy to use, it's more likely to get used. If it's compatible with what you used before, it's more likely to get used again. So, when people were moving from CDs to MP3s, was it originally compatible? No. So it was hard to make that leap, and then when you had software to rip it or download it, it made it easy. So one of them is relative advantage. So is this new way of doing it giving me a better ROI than the way I was doing it before? And there's certainly some element there that you could make the argument that Referon does. More efficient, more quickly done. You could track it and all those things. But you know, it's a good gauge. I use it in a lot of my classes to have people analyze new product development and when a new product comes to market. Can you score yourself almost on these 5 factors? And you can kind of predict your ability to succeed in various phases of the market.
Does he actually talk about timing at all? About how many seconds or minutes it takes for someone to go, oh, I'm going to look further?
No. I mean, this was written, like I said, like probably in the 1950s when it wasn't like, you know, instant, you know, so. But
Android was in its early stages.
It was very early, yeah. But it applies to any market where something new comes to the market. So like Tide Ponds, right, the little laundry things, right, you can apply it to this. Or the iPhone, the iPod, any new innovative product that comes to the market, these 5 factors have. And the timing thing, you know, in terms of the way Brendan presented it, in terms of the product life cycle, that life cycle doesn't change, it just stretches. It's either long or short, but the percentages are pretty accurate in terms of that percentage of market, which is why most people say you got to capture at least 20% of the market, which puts you into that early majority, as opposed to the early adopters.
Yeah, we had a couple of timings, a previous application that we had about 5 or 6 years ago, and there was more about sort of download time. It had to be downloaded within 5 minutes at that time. Yeah. And the value had to be, it had to look interesting, and there's about 2 to 3 minutes of it had to look interesting, and they had to see the value in less than 7 minutes. And it was interesting is, you know, we had analytics coming back and we could see what they were doing. When we kind of brought some of the key features of this particular product forward, so they kind of saw them at about the 4-minute mark when they first into the product, it really changed the conversion and engagement rate. Right. And a company that, you know, talked about this a lot, who were really struggling, was Intuit with
QuickBooks.
With QuickBooks, and particularly their personal edition, is they had too many steps, and their dropout rate was incredible. It's like 70% of the people who were going through the setup wizard stopped. Yep. And they basically reduced the number of steps, not getting all the information to actually really get it up and running, but to get them into the product. So they reduced the steps, we'll say, from 23 down to say 5 or 7, and now instead of 70% of people dropping off, 70% of the people completed it, and it transformed their sales.
That's a huge,
So that's very much into this, I think the observability and the simplicity.
That's good. And on the observability, for everybody to think, is it value or is it ROI, is it success? Whatever market we go into, right, to try to cross the chasm, what's critical to us is we get some early success. Right. And so we're trying to figure out how do you define that in each market. Right. But a real simple way to think of it is, how quick can we get one of our early adopters to use Refer-On to refer us to another business?
Exactly.
So as a group of founders, over lunch a couple of weeks ago, we took out some dollar bills, and we all wrote a date of when we thought we were going to get our first Refer-On to another customer. Now, I'm not sure if that's against the law to write on a dollar bill if that's around, but I wouldn't advise it. But so as you get the matter, this is how we're kind of guiding ourselves. So as you think about this, observability to us is, making it go viral for other people to use Refer-On to refer us in our service.
The best analogy is when the iPod first came out, they used white headphone wires, the white buds, right? Douglas had a pair on as he walked in this morning. First time that an electronics company made the headphones visible. In the past, they were always black, so that people didn't notice them. Apple made a decision to make them white. People started to notice it in the beginning. That's a key to observability. It's like, what is that guy wearing? That's an iPod. Oh, they come with white headphones. Oh, what's an iPod? Tell me about it, right? That's another way of observability. If you kind of pay for product placement in movies, right? That's kind of the ultimate thing, where someone's drinking a Diet Coke and it's perfectly positioned so that as they're drinking on the movie, that's another way of observability. You go to the Emmys and they get that swag bag full of stuff, right? That's all about observability. The next day, all the actors and actresses are carrying around iPhones that they got for free at the Emmys. Right? So any way you can, an app is hard to do that, but the way, that's one of the things maybe we can help you figure out is how do you make it observable for people. So, thank you, Brendan.
Thank you.
Nicole.
So I'm Nicole, and I'm mainly going to talk about Porter's 5 Forces model. So for competitors, I obviously put in Groupon, which other people have talked about, but I found a website, Meetup, and they also have an app. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but they kind of give you the option to join groups, and it's more of like a networking site. And we had to read articles on networking because without networking, referrals really aren't possible. So I also think that LinkedIn could be a type of competitor because it's where you make connections. Again, without those, you can't have referrals. And I know that I have a lot more views because my connection with my dad. A lot of people normally wouldn't have, of that tier, wouldn't look at my LinkedIn profile. And then I found that the threat of new entrants, I thought, in the app market is pretty high because it's such an up-and-coming thing. People are making apps all the time. Some of them take off, some of them don't. But I think that, personally, I like download an app and then I don't use it, or I use it a little bit and then a few months later it's gone. So I think the stability of the app is very important, and I think I was trying to research ones that kind of stick around. And I was asking around, and I found that the usefulness, the ease, and I thought social networking ones really kind of make an impact on people. And I also think that the younger generations are more apt to use the apps. So I think that a possibility would be kind of getting colleges involved in Refer-On. Like, I know I was referred to look at different colleges around the area. And then I think that I did a little bit of research, and the capital is relatively low to make an app. I mean, it all depends on how developed the app is going to get. So like I said before, people in their basements are making an app that, I mean, probably doesn't take off. But, and in general, the profitability in the industry is low just because the app is free, but you get profit through all different kinds of, like, whether it's the rewards, the companies coming in. And then I found that the buyer power I thought was low, just because there is no prices to be forced down because the app is free, or price sensitivity, anybody can download the app. And I was doing a little bit of research on the App Store to see what kind of apps are similar to Refer-On. And I found a lot of apps similar, but I felt like Refer-On kind of brought in what all of these different apps did separately. So I think that the app is unique. One that I did find was Evernote, which you put in all your meetings with whoever that specific person is, and it makes, do you have that app?
I use it, but go on. I'm interested in what you're saying.
I don't use it, so you probably have more experience, but
We're recording you on Evernote right now.
So you have the meetings with people, and I think you keep it as a schedule. I kind of just went through the details of it, and so I think it makes the connection, and you write down, you take a picture of their business card. But I think that once that happens, what do you do after you make that connection? So I think that's where Refer-On kind of comes in. For substitutes, I think it's relatively low because, like I said, the app is unique. But you also have like the referral companies and the websites, but that's using your computer where you have to go back home. And this is right on your phone. I think promotional companies that use the emails that they send out, I know I get Target ones all the time that I just delete, but I think that that's kind of a form of substitutes for Refer-On. And then we had talked about this in class quickly, but the supplier power, we had talked about that it's really low because it's pretty much internally, unless you count the collaborators and the companies that you need in order to have a referral possible.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
More questions?
Yeah, why are you deleting most of those emails?
I'm really bad with email, so I know even the Bentley emails I'm really bad at looking at. There are certain, I guess, companies or stores that I'll look at that I shop at often,
Yeah.
but like the Target ones I just constantly delete, and I find them annoying because I'll come home to like 20 emails and none of them are actually personal, so.
But of those promotional ones,
Mhm.
there are some brands that you're connected to that it's like, okay, not necessarily maybe looking forward to it, but it's like, okay, I want to take a look at that.
Right, yeah. I think, I guess it's all a loyalty to that company or store. So if I'm willing to put in the effort to go to that store to use that 50% off, I might use it. Or if it's a web sale, but sometimes I'll quickly browse them, other times I just erase them.
If there's a really good offer, would you tell anybody else about it?
Yeah, I know there's an online clothing store that was having a 50% off sale and free shipping, and I got the email for it and I told all my roommates about it, and I think we all ordered things, but I didn't go outside my room.
You don't want to mess up the inventory and ruin your selection.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't tell too many.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Excellent.
Thanks, very good.
Alright, so some of the topics I want to discuss have already been talked about, so calling kind of inaudible here, sorry if I'm blowing up anybody's slot. So I'll talk about some of the targeted prospects. In our presentation that Douglas gave us the other week, the presentation listed estate attorneys, financial advisors, accountants, and insurance agents as people and companies who typically work together, share, generate leads. So local companies within these realms would be a great place to start. Once you make a big splash in one of these industries, there's potential to not only dominate one industry, but all four of these, and business companies alike. Local gyms are also something that's very popular, at least for referrals. I know whenever my friends and I get back from school in the summer, the big debate is where we're working out, what has the best deal, what gym. So I think it would be a great place to look into, whether it's Gold's, Planet Fitness, and there's actually this one 24-hour fitness place in Waltham that if you wanted to sign up, you had to give them your Twitter account, and they got to tweet once from your account saying, I just signed up for this gym, which is kind of exactly what you guys are trying to do, but obviously they were unaware of the product that you guys have. So they took to, I guess, creepily taking people's Twitter accounts and using them for their own referral marketing.
Yeah, talk about other people's information.
Yeah, right? So that's definitely something I think could be a big referral business. And then another thing I looked into is Saucony. It's a New England-based running shoe. And when I worked in a sports store during my last 2 years of high school, they would come in and give us seminars all the time about their products. So they're making a big effort to expand their brand, expand just out of New England where they're known. So there's certainly somebody I'm sure that you could look into. And then Boston sports teams. I know, Joe, you're meeting with Wick, which it's incredible.
Wait till you meet him. Tell him
Fair
how incredible it is.
Fair enough. So maybe look into other Boston sports teams. I'm sure it's difficult, but with so many successful teams in Massachusetts, I know there's a huge fan base. I don't really know any other place that's more passionate about sports than Boston. The way the Sox are playing now, who wouldn't want to go to a Sox game? Depending on how the Patriots offense looks, maybe go to a Pats game. But I know I even have relatives from New Jersey who are diehard Yankees fans, diehard New York Giants fans. And they still want to come to Fenway, catch a game, see what it's like. They still want to come see Tom Brady before he retires, which hopefully isn't for another 4 or 5 years, but if I was 37 and married to Giselle, I'd be okay with retiring now too.
Me too.
So, just being able to give them, ticket info, team info, travel info from wherever they're coming from, I think it could be a useful tool. And then lastly, I chose Ford Motor Group, which is pretty broad, but it's kind of funny because Joey brought that up. But they, I believe, had a large stake in Mazda and then kind of backed out of it, and they have a very, very small stake now. But obviously, they also have Lincoln, Mercury, Volvo. So not only are you getting these Ford customers, but you're getting customers who've had positive experiences with Lincoln, Mercury, Volvo. So it's a much wider consumer base. And that's it.
Right, so does Boston sports teams, we have relationships with those guys, so like we're actually friends with those guys, so we can actually call them, but we want to start it off with the guys. I actually do a sales meeting for their ticket team every year for the Celtics. The CMO is named Sean Sullivan. And so I go in for free and just go through and do a sales thing. So we just have such a strong relationship with them. We want to try to start off with them first. Mm-hmm. So you've probably, when you talked about seeing people speak here, I know Rich Gotham, the president of the Celtics, has spoken here. He's a really good guy. And all these guys, these are all friends of mine that we hang around together. And so at the end of the day, we think if we can get that right with the Celtics, it is a foray to all the NBA teams because they do sales sharing and conference calls and stuff like that in the league. Once you get it right with one team, we think we're going to be able to get it right. With the car companies, I'm going to go into Detroit, Dearborn, where Ford is, on October 2nd and 3rd. So on the 3rd, I'm going to meet with Ford and share with them what we're doing with Mazdas. But we just want to tickle them a little bit because unless we get it right with Mazda, I don't want to really start any. And the head of WPP, which is the marketing company, Satish Corday, I'm going to probably meet him that afternoon and just see what other customers he has with that the product may work. And I want to just pique his interest a little bit. So we're on the sports teams. Local gyms, Saucony is a cult. It's like somebody refers it. It's a sneaker. It's a specialty. They don't advertise, kind of like New Balance used to be. That's a great idea. Local gyms, Dan's a big CrossFit, cult maniac, as I call him. So we've already met with CrossFit yesterday. One of the things that you guys didn't write there, which is one of the people we're going to work with, is the restaurants. Because restaurants are full-blown recommendation. It's all how it's handled after. It's not just, hey, here's the number, call, Dave's the thing. It's the way we have it modeled is something that we're really focused on in our early adopter program. But I like the Saucony. That's a company that companies that completely rely on referrals. They're not looking to use excess inventory like the restaurants or the Celtics or Ford. They're looking to, that's their business model. Okay. Good. What do you got?
I was going to say off of Saucony, they're part of Wolverine, which owns Sperry and Keds and Stradbroke as well. So if that's something, that would be a good, like Wolverine Worldwide would probably branch down into all those four.
Good point.
And with companies like that, when we talk about C2C, and I want you to keep this on your mind, C2C is going to be is really going to be a really great reward program, right? Because these are people who are passionate about their running sneaks. They're going to refer them, but you can't just refer them and say, here's a tool to refer. You're going to have to say, hey, if you refer and they use this promotional code and they buy X amount, we're going to track and we're going to provide you with free this, or if we're going to give you, there has to be some reward system. Because as you get down to smaller priced items, why would I keep referring? I do love them, I am passionate about it, but there's no incentive, as we had discussed earlier, right? The incentive, I need the incentive in order to do it. Like, I actually, for the Celtics, I tell the fellas all the time, I actually can probably, just with normal people that ask me, I could refer $30,000 of tickets a year for them. Just because normal people, because, But if I was getting a 10% kickback from them, which would mean $3,000 off my ridiculous, dumb tickets that I have, I would go to the gym where I play hoop and say, hey, fellas, don't go to... don't go online and get tickets. Call me, I'll hook you up with my gal. I would actually promote it. Because if I sold 60,000, I can get 6 Gs off of it. So, again, see how, even with me, I'm very close and friends with those guys. I've been since they bought the team. But I would do it just to get $6,000 back. It's a lot of money. I would change my behavior, and it also, the experience is what we're talking about. It would make me look great because I go, look, I don't deal with StubHub. Joe Shaker hooks me up with his direct person. You know Joe. Yeah, he's at the, yeah, he hooks me up, and it makes me look good in public, builds my social capital. In addition to that, I get rewarded. In addition to that, my friend buys tickets at Face. So
there's a gap in between insurance agents and local gyms, and I'm just going to use that as a point. I love it because there's an opportunity to fill that. Everybody in this room has a different perspective where you are in life than we do. It's been 20 years since I sat in the seat, and probably the things I really loved and wanted to refer at the time I can't mention. But if you guys can think about like what could go in there, Nicole said something that was just brilliant. And I'll tell you a story. I was playing golf with the head of all of Akamai Technology the other day. Akamai.
My dad used to work there.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yep. So Jim Ebsreed now, he's the general manager for the U.S., and I was going through all the things that we're doing with this and where we're going, and he's nodding his head. I'm looking to get in there and talk to Jim and his team about it, and I'm just trying to find the right way that we can do it, low risk, all the things that you guys have talked about. And what he said to me was, I go, so how are the boys? And he goes, yeah, the oldest is just graduating from High Point. I go, how you like that, High Point? He goes, oh, it was great. He was the first kid from the Dover-Sherburne High School to go there, ever. And he's had a great experience, and now the president of the college has called me and wants me to help recruit kids in this area because, he loves everything that James has brought them. So now in my mind, Nicole said something, I go to Jim, not to help him at Akamai, which everybody's trying to do, but help him in this role to help the president find new kids. Bingo. So now I can have a discussion based on what Nicole just talked about. So my point is, guys, there's a gap up there. Think outside of the box and think about things that you guys like that we might not be thinking of, that, whether it's clothing or something that can take off with your network. Because another fact I heard from the first presentation is 2/3 of the people on the phones are 18 to 34. You know that set better than we do. So it's a great opportunity for you guys to kind of fill in that slot.
And as you do, think through what would motivate you to do a referral. Outside the fact that you like it and you want to hook your friends up. Kind of like what Nicole said. She goes, these are great clothes, I always buy them here, and this is a great deal, or whatever it is. What would, she did it because she's friends, but was there a reward that you could have had that would have had her tell everybody on her floor versus a room? So, that type of thought process, like the Saucony thing we just talked about. What would motivate you to keep referring that? So just think about that as we go forward, because the motivations are, I told my son, who's 14 years old, if he refers somebody over on a car, I'll give him $200. So he's thinking about, how are we going to buy the new Grand Theft Auto that came out yesterday, which is pretty crazy, by the way. So at the end of the day, here he is. He goes, you don't need to say anything else to me. Every one of my friends' parents, I'm going to go, hey, listen, you got to talk to my dad. He wants to roll up too. That was motivational to him. I want to see what's motivational. I had one of his friends, he told about his friend the story about the Referon, and his friend goes, Mr. Shaker, can I download that Referon yet? And what's the deal? What's the deal? So what's the motivation to make him want to download Refer Close Friends and Reward? And that's what, as you come up with that space that Doc's talking about, his name is Dan Doherty, I call him Doc. You just, let us know deeper what would activate that. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Kelly, you're up.
Hi, my name is Kelly. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is, I know Mac touched upon the mobile app industry, and so he kind of touched upon like how it's difficult to sell, and you're competing with all these built-in features that they already have, like surfing the internet, weather. But I think another key element is the whole idea about the design of the app and interface. And so I think that nowadays people are always on their phone constantly, but they want to get things done quickly. So you need to make sure that the design is easy to use, that it's interactive. And so I found research that said people differentiate the apps and websites based on interface. So we mainly, like, all you have is an app, but it really shows that you need to make sure the design is easy and interactive and really simple to understand and use. So going forward in that, I took a look at this idea of the bowling alley strategy. And so what I thought, I tried to come up with opportunities of ways that you could use different applications for the app. So as you can see, the first one, obviously, you're going to use Referon to create referrals. And that segment can be for professional to professional, consumer to consumer, employee to employee, all these target markets that you're already focusing on. but I tried to think of different opportunities that you could use the app for. So I thought of the idea of maybe using Referent to promote business. So I actually downloaded the app, and there's a space where you can kind of share your story. So I thought maybe you could turn this into some place where the business can promote like what their mission statement is, what their values, kind of give people an idea of what they can provide for the person, so that when you're making that connection, there's more information on how we can help you, how we can benefit you. And then going from there, I think that it could also be a way to use to find advocates. So I know that you have all these loyal customers, but you get back to this reward system. If you can find people that are going to go out there, they're going to create buzz for your company, this can be a great way to take these connections and have them refer your companies, and then in the end reward them for it. So I think kind of having these like ambassadors and using the app to find these people, and then they can use the app to actually go out there and make the referrals could be another opportunity. And just another way that you can actually use the app itself is just people, all segments can just use it to store their contacts, store their connections. So this can be another way. You have all these networks, and as we said, it's a huge part of our lives today. So you can use your phone to have all your contacts, have your connections right then and right there. And you can go back there, and as you say, you can just share you can share referrals that you think are important, and you can just have them right there so that it's easy when you're talking to someone. Oh yeah, like let me find my connection, it's right here. So these are just kind of different ways that you can market Refer-On. So people, obviously it's going to be used to for referrals, but these are just other opportunities that I tried to think outside the box and think of, different ways that you could actually use the app itself. And I don't want to step on anyone else's, so.
You can.
Yeah, that's really all I have.
Okay, good. Question?
So you mentioned a message or something.
Mm-hmm.
What do you imagine it as? Do you imagine it as a statement, a business's statement of purpose, a mission statement, nothing long-winded?
Yeah, nothing long. Just something that's like, maybe kind of the idea of like personalization, so it's kind of like you're kind of developing a relationship with the brand, so they're kind of putting it in like simple words like what we can do for you, or showing your mission, because I think that's a big part of
so like for instance
today.
A car business,
yeah,
we could put, so we would take a normal tagline and maybe not use that and do something more appropriate for a referral thing, and say, where we take care of our customers' friends,
yeah,
and referrals are taken seriously. Something that's more applicable to the, so that's what you imagine when you say that.
Something that's more applicable, like that you can apply to the actual idea of like referrals. Right. So that whole idea of, like we're going to have these trusted referrals, and that we really take into account, if you're out there, you're promoting us, like we really appreciate that, and then in the end we'll like reward you for that. So it's kind of this whole like life cycle that I think could be really important for the app.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
So what I did is a little bit different than what everyone else is doing. They mostly focused on like the what and the why, and maybe this is a little bit premature and I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, but I kind of focused on the how and more of what point B is and where the company could go, the potential it is there, and how to get there. So that was my main focus, and I really just tried to use the strategies that we are given to analyze, refer on, and get a perspective in that way. So starting off, this is the target market influence is how people make decisions. A big group of people who use this are families, and they have 5 different people: the initiator to make of the decision, the influencer, decider, buyer, and the user. And they all have different roles within that decision. So the initiator suggests the idea, the influencer gives advice and is kind of like the researcher, like the background person. The decider is the one with the financial power and really can make the decision on that end. The buyer is the purchaser, and the user is whoever's benefiting from it. So I used this model to really consider the impact of families with Refer-On and how they could be integrated into the whole marketing process. I'm going back a little bit. Nicole did talk a bit about this, but I looked at it with a bit of a different perspective. I kind of utilized this model to understand the internet-based companies, which I consider Refer-On, and how that industry works. And I realized through this there's a lot more challenges and some more benefits than I actually realized. One of the challenges, there's low barriers to entry, and I know I haven't heard of anything quite like Refer-On, but once it does get big, and I think it will, there's going to be a lot of people jumping on board. And with internet and technology, it's so easy to develop and innovate very quickly, and finding that competitive advantage over and over again is going to pose an issue in the future. Rivalry is going to be more intense, and substitutions, like you said, this basically is a way of having an old task and making it new. It's not a new idea, but it's the way of going about it, and there's constantly going to be more ideas like that. So that's going to be a big issue, and something to think about like in the future and the longevity of the company. Finally, like this is my major conclusions. Is what we're really trying to do is bringing this to the early majority, to the people who are going to make it into their lifestyle. So through that, I thought we should focus on the consumer and not so much the business side, because the business people understand how important networking is, how important those referrals are. But to get a large part of the market, if you focus on the consumers and the everyday people, that's how it goes into everyday life. And business people are also everyday people. If they see it in that aspect, they can bring it into their business and use that side of the company as well. Like I said before, marketing to families might be useful because if the kids see it and it's visible, someone mentioned visibility before, they grow up and see that integrated into their parents' life, and they can use that and integrate it into their life seamlessly just because that's how they've grown up. And teenagers are obviously very into technology. They know they're more of the innovators or the early adopters just because we're so familiar with it. And college students, we're looking for jobs. Obviously, the play to hire is a major aspect for college students. I think that's about it.
Thanks. So hold that slide.
Yes.
So this is a real pretty, well, you made a couple of amazing comments. And the first one is, in order to really scale this and to really hit in volume where everybody wants to have Refer-On as an app, obviously we're working with companies to make sure it works. To make sure it works at a restaurant, to make sure it works for E2E or whatever. But in order to have everybody get it, we're going to have to really target the masses, and the masses are going to be families, teenagers, college students. So one of the little kernels I think would be great for us to get out of this is where are we going to get that audience? Because we get paid, it's a free app. I mean, we ultimately are going to get paid from the companies because they're being able to use our technology to execute referrals. And so yeah, that's going to be one of the key questions in the group. And it really kind of goes back to what Dan said. Dan said, what's that spot? And then you said, in order for it to scale, so you have how many, 100 million users or whatever, we're going to need to hit this market. And then what specifically, where would you go ultimately in order for us to hit this market? Where would you go? How would you crack it? So that, again, we're just trying to make it work right now because it's very, very good business, very profitable business. with businesses, with restaurants, but when we want to get to the Saucony, or when we want to get to the gyms, when we want to get to that's where you're going to get volumes and volumes of users on the site. So that's a challenge I have for you. That's the big question. We can never be a front page app unless we have it available to everybody, as well as, ultimately, we'd like someone to say, hey, do you wear Adidas? I have them in my referral. Meaning I refer them all the time. I have them in my, do you go to this restaurant? Yeah, it's in my referral. That's ultimately if you said, what's utopia? I'd say that would be utopia. So this is a great question. Think about it over the next couple of weeks and see if you come up with a kernel.
Any other questions? All set? Thanks, Lisa. Nice
Sure,
job.
thank you.
So for my presentation, I'm going to go back to what Tim was talking about, the targeted prospects that I brainstormed. So the first one that I wanted to touch upon was networking groups in the area. So the various B&I groups or social networking groups. All of these have professionals that come in, and there's usually one person per profession. And there's a mutual understanding between everyone in the group that if their friend needs a referral to a certain service or business, they're going to refer their friend back to their professional in that group that they're a part of. So my dad's he started his own networking group in Marshfield, where I'm from. It's called the South Shore Business Leaders. And I was talking to him about this app, and he thought that this actually could be a good tool that they could use. Because, like everyone's been saying, the ball is dropped sometimes between referrals. So the tool of the app could be used for these business professionals to actually follow through with their referral. And this app could also provide analytics for these groups to kind of show to the public why it's beneficial to join the groups and the actual profits that they're generating just by these referrals through the application. And another idea that I came up with was for small businesses to kind of join together in representatives for like big events in your life. For example, your wedding planner can refer you to different photographers in the area, travel agents, limo services, etc. And a new homeowner your real estate agent could refer you to different small businesses in the area. And this could kind of form like a mutual understanding between the small businesses, and they could kind of form alliances that way. And then other things that I thought of were just various restaurants in the area, mostly consumer to consumer referrals. And then again, what Alyssa was touching upon, like college students. We're all away from home, we're new to the area, we don't know where to get our hair cut, we don't know where to get our car fixed. We could all refer each other to these smaller businesses on college campuses, around college campuses. So that could be a way they could use the app for a younger generation. And then also just any outsourced companies, so say Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin-Robbins are the same mutual company. Dunkin' Donuts say they use Hill Holiday for their ad agency. They could refer Baskin-Robbins, their partner company, back to Hill Holiday as an outsourced company. And again, the companies with loyalty programs, they could provide their customers that are loyal with incentives for referrals. So if they refer a certain amount of people back to that company, they could provide them with an incentive or another reason they should be bringing in more referrals.
So what did your dad think? Because B&I is something that we know inherently. We know that they try to network, but we know that no one tracks it. So even if someone gets something, they go, "Oh, what happened? I don't know what happened." It's just it's a great idea, and connections happen, but it's not tracked and not rewarded, and because it's not tracked and rewarded, they don't really blow it up like they want to, right?
Yeah.
So did you go through the app with your dad?
Not with him, but like I went through it by myself, yeah. But he thought that sometimes even though they are part of the networking group, that the referrals are just dropped. They say, "Oh, I know this person by B&I group," but if there's no connection that actually follows through with it, so,
So he validated the fact that even in a group that's built on connections, they drop the ball.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it happens to everyone.
Yeah, so I just was curious what he thought about it.
Yeah.
And I think it was Rolanda, you brought up BNI in your discussion, right? And you mentioned that you didn't, what was it, your opinion on BNI?
Well, I thought that if BMI might be like a competitor to them in some way because they can't refer outside of their circle, as she has mentioned, so it kind of can go both ways, because referring can work for them to refer people in their circle, but then, like, outside of that, they can't exactly accept other referrals.
But it almost goes, it's like a little bit of a learning curve here a little bit for everybody, because then it goes into the newlyweds thing as an example. So if you're gonna have a clique or a monopoly or a group, then the only proper way to execute in, based on what your dad is saying and what others have said as well, by the way, is that the tool would help within that clique to become more, because what they do is agree to work with each other.
Right.
But if you can't work with each other in the proper fashion, track it or reward, then it doesn't make any sense. So it's almost like the view of it may be a little different. It's BNI can work with because they can't currently execute today. And the strength of a South Shore Business Leader group is as strong as the members and them sticking together. Because I could always refer somebody to buy a car from someone else, even if I'm in a BNI group.
Yeah.
It's still America, you know, so I still have the freedom to do that. Yeah, that's interesting. So I like the newlywed thing example.
So the BNI, they can't make a referral outside of that network, so you're making a commitment to your internal network that I'm going to recommend somebody in this network?
You know, theoretically, the idea is that your first referral should be to someone inside that group. That's how the group grows.
Yeah, yeah.
I was in a BNI group, there were 55 members. There were some members in that group that I wouldn't refer people to.
Right.
You know, there was a mortgage broker in that group that I thought I would never refer someone to. So, given the opportunity, I would go outside of that. But they kind of look at the cumulative referrals you give each year. So they track how many dollars I had referred and how many dollars the group had referred internally. So, you know, your dad probably sees this too. There's probably some members that are better at it, some members that are better providing the service, some members that are better referring business, but there's always a few that don't get the referrals. But theoretically, the way it's supposed to work is you refer inside the group.
This is great learning, didn't know that, thanks.
Yeah. So, great.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Megan Ryan, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the overall strategic opportunities and challenges, because mainly everybody has already taken my specific points from each slide, so now I'm left with the catch-alls. I think one of the biggest opportunities with Referon is in its flexibility. You guys have talked about how it's got really a cross-functionality with the 4 main targets that you can do it with. And my research has been showing me that most professional to professional and E2E services are really looking for that configurability. There's a challenge in that too. I'll just keep going back and forth. The challenge is in the integration mainly, because a lot of the main competitors I found to this system would be the big SAP, the big Oracles, the big CRM systems, and they really see customers, the big customers really see those big companies as being able to service their every needs. But what Referon has is the mobility with that guy and all of his little mobile phones. What the mobility, I think, really presents an opportunity is that this is really the direction everything's moving. One statistic I found was 74% of information technology people own an iPhone or some sort of a smartphone, but only 17% of business-to-business companies have some sort of application for that, and only 21% of them have some kind of a optimized website for a mobile technology. The other big thing I found was in E2E marketing. There is in the possibility of cross-selling. 79% of consumers will do their will accept a cross-selling offer in store. So that's, if you have a mobile application like Referon, that's really going to be where they're going to find, the companies will find a value, and that's going to be, if you can just pull out Referon, that's going to be a big differentiator against an Oracle or a Salesforce. And that pretty much brings me back to the potential prospects. Ignore the sports teams because everybody's already talked about the sports teams. But I think Boston is a great place to be headquartered in right now because, as you were talking about, the target market is the 18 to 34-year-olds. And Boston has a lot of resources to get into that. Vertical integration is, a Gardner study showed that vertical integration is the best industries to go into for mobile apps. I used some of the examples of local companies that you guys already had a toehold in. For financial services where you have the Edward Joneses, you could go into Fidelity, MFS, Invesco. For McGladry's competitors, so to speak, you could have a Boston Consulting Group, IBM, Forrester Research. And I didn't put these ones up on the slide because I had limited space, and I also knew that these were the ones you had a toehold in. But if you wanted to get to colleges or bigger Boston area companies in general, healthcare and higher education are really the other two big areas to go into because there's a lot of E2E possibilities, there's a lot of P2P possibilities, and in addition, in the higher education, you have great college students like us who are willing to, if we see this app being used by all of our professors and we really listen to what they're saying in class, we'll be more likely to adopt it. So those are my thoughts. If you have any questions, thank you.
So in the education market, what do you think you would use it for? What?
I think it would, I believe probably hiring would be a big thing because we've got the big colleges here. And there's a lot of adjuncts, a lot of professors, and a lot of staff in general. That would be a good thing. You could use it a little bit for the E2E, for the cross-selling of the contacts in the admissions office. So if you're trying to get into, say, Bentley's PhD program, you should talk to this person in the PhD department. If you're trying to talk to, I think consumer to consumer, that would be a little bit more difficult, but I think for the hiring and the P2P and the EDE would be the best. And now that I'm even speaking aloud, another idea comes to me. A lot of institutions have research hubs. Bentley's got the Insights blog. Excuse me. So one of the things you could do is, if you have a group of professors, even across different colleges, one of them refers to using Referon to, I just read this great piece by this, we should have a meeting, we should discuss all this great developments in this technology or this strategy that's coming up.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm just going to quickly go through this slide. I'm only going to talk about the first point, but it is that the main target should be stores that heavily rely on referral marketing already. Several that come to mind are Five Guys Burgers won't put any more money into their marketing besides just making quality food and making sure that people will go out and refer their product. But with the app like Referon, they can track these customers. They'll now know who their loyal customers are. Right now, they don't actually have a loyalty program like that. They kind of trust the people to go out and do it, but there's a way to really stay in contact with them. There's a couple other companies that are it's kind of trending right now to actually not market yourself, which is a great spot for referrals to come in. Zara is a fashion company that also does things like this. They don't have ads, they don't have advertisements. They really just expect people to hear or see their brand and like it and want to go out and get it. Another category that we worked with our partner last semester is called Boston Tutoring Services, which is a tutoring company within the local area. We've talked about it previously in class, but their main source of new customers were referrals. They work within a lot of nice towns, Wellesley, Newton, Lexington, Andover are their main places. And really all they do is they try to contact a few parents, and once those parents kind of who are social elite of their neighborhoods, kind of like the service. They go out, tell all their friends, or their kids can also go out as a way for them to rapidly build their business. Then I went into the actual referral groups. These are places that not necessarily you're trying to get businesses in, but this is ways to get new people to actually install the app, get familiar with Refer-On. So when a business comes along, they do want to refer, they can simply just go to their phone right away, click it, and go. But as we were saying earlier, local parents groups, PTAs, youth sports associations are just good places where a lot of social parents will be. And these are people who are making a lot of referrals. They'll be with their friends, they can talk, but if you can get into these organizations and actually get them on the Refer-On app right away, it's much easier to actually instill the idea that they should start referring businesses later on instead of introducing them with the business and then going from there. We already talked about B&I, so I won't touch on that. Sports venues, we talked about a lot of sports teams working with the teams themselves, but it's also a good place to get their product out. They attract the mass audience of people. There's really all sorts of people go, families, adults, just everyone can be interested in a sports venue, so it's a good place to introduce a product to the masses, which is a goal of the companies, to get it out to the public and not just use it for business use. And trade shows are also a good place to actually get to the businesses, to get them installing the app and trying to push it to their clients. Just a few afterthoughts. The whole point of Refer-On is that it is more successful than just giving an oral referral to someone. It's not just saying, hey, you should go check out Five Guys. It's giving them a paperless, permanent thing that they can always have, that you may remember 3 days later, hey, Brendan referred me to a restaurant, I can't remember the name, but it's already on your phone. You just pull it out and you already know what it is. And consumers are already looking for referrals. A lot of statistics I came across said that this is the most trusting generation that there's ever been of their friends. What I got was that around 50% of people immediately look to their friends for referrals before looking to any other source of advertisement. Also, a direction that Refer-On could go is the Refer-On's top referrals program within the app, which is basically a ranking of the companies that are getting the best referrals or getting the most referrals. It's kind of a way to promote businesses to really become more involved, try to promote it to their clients, say, hey, go on Refer-On, refer us. There's obviously going to be incentive programs, but it's also an incentive for the business itself to be recognized as one of the best companies that people are, actually into at the time. That's about it. Any questions?
Kevin, so tell us a little bit about that idea of a little more about the top referrals. Would you publicize those somehow in the app? Would you have a website where it would be listed? Or?
It would be somewhere within the app that's pretty, not necessarily right in your face, but you can access it if you were looking to get just a general knowledge of, say, like you go to a new city, you can look up the city's top referrals for restaurants, you can do it for museums, really anything that is.
So kind of like the App Store that has, the number of downloads and the reviews.
But therein lies the idea we talked about before. Once you create this activity, then you can follow the money, and then why bother looking at Yelp? Because we don't care what someone's opinion is, we care what's actually happening, right? So this is your Refer-On's top referrals. We just have to be careful because maybe these are possible people to buy us, maybe they're possible people to create their own and fight with us. Do you know what I mean? Because this is a serious threat. If we're able to get real-time transactional data and control it, that data is a lot of power because we follow the money instead of opinion.
So, and what I like, in looking back, I've been looking at what everybody's been putting, and I said fill the gap. So Alyssa, you mentioned the high-end restaurants. I know you didn't talk about it, but I read that, and I think that's brilliant. In fact, tonight we're meeting with Ming Tsai of Blue Ginger, and we're of the demographic where we understand the high end, right? You bring up Five Guys. Now, I've been there. I don't go there much, but I look at that going, okay, that's not the place I go to all the time. It's not the type of place I would probably refer my friends. But I get to thinking, this is more your generation, right? How could we put a program together with Five Guys that would push a message out? I think it was Nicole that was asked the question, what emails do you like and do you open, do you read? And why Douglas was asking that is our thought is, what if we could push messages to a demographic? What if we could push messages to you and your peers that said something to the effect of, hey, look, there's a special at Five Guys. Five Guys doesn't do marketing, but perhaps through Refer-On, they would promote a $4 burger or a $3 burger, but it would only come from one referral. So you would get the juice of referring it to a friend who could go get that burger, and now Five Guys are selling burgers on a Tuesday, a day they typically don't sell a lot of burgers, in a neighborhood of a college like Bentley. So it really kind of gets our mind going, and Douglas whispered in my ear like, hey, well, there's probably some cool things we could do with Bentley, and from a college standpoint. So ideas really generating from this one session. I think it's been an awesome day, and I think this Five Guys is something we should riff on and take your knowledge, and and I'm curious, why did you come up with Five Guys?
I just know them because they don't have advertisements. They really don't do any promotions. They put all their money towards the actual quality of the food, but this is something that they push referrals very highly, at least. So it's a good way for them to track it because they don't currently do any sort of thing
So
like that.
I think the word I would use is mainstream. We don't have a problem. We don't have a problem getting the high-end restaurants on because look, it's a referral. There's money in it. The high-end customer doesn't need that big of a reward. They almost need just recognition or a bottle of wine or whatever. We talked to Chris Himmel at Grill 23. He says we give out bottles of wine, and I don't know if my manager gave it to a good customer or if the guy's putting up a fence in my manager's yard. You know what I mean? And they have T&E budgets to do that and take care of those customers. But it's easy to do on a large scale. You want to track. It's a high-ticket item. You're going to walk out of there at $100 a person. But mainstream, the sneaker, mainstream, Five Guys. This is really where we can get the usage up. And then when Douglas and Dan talk about shipping a message, if your phone had 4 restaurants on it, then you would only ever get a message from your 4 top deals. It wouldn't be spam crazy. It would be, hey, Five Guys, blah, blah, blah. Or, thanks for being a great referrer. Here's an electronic, the refer-on logo will come up with a little 1 on it, just like you're getting a text. And they would just, at any moment, go, hey, business is slow. Let's shoot it out to our top connectors or mavens out there. Let's set free fries right now for them for the rest of the week. Yeah. So all of a sudden on your phone, you go, boom, free fry. I like taking those on refer-on. And they only come with places that I recommend. Right. It's not from somebody that you don't do business with. So that's where kind of Douglas is going. But the real challenge, guys, for us is as we keep touching on it, is mainstream. What is that reward that makes me refer Five Guys?
What's the business model?
Yeah, because we can go to Ming Tsai and go, hey Ming, it's $100 a month. You pay us $100 a month. It's $1,200 a year. Use this on all your emails. So now use it on your deploy it out to your social media machine, see who you can engage, and then deploy it to each one of the customers that the manager knows and get it out there and get people using it and fill your seats with your second best customer. Your loyalist, your second best customer. That's the second utopia, right? First utopia, I don't need to advertise, we're already jammed. Second utopia is I'm already jammed with loyalists and then I'm jammed with their referrals. So I'm at second utopia, I don't need to advertise. And then third utopia is I'm jammed on 1, I'm jammed on 2, and I only have 10% of seats left to advertise. So we're trying to get somebody to the third utopia but have a great experience. Now at a restaurant, I can get the info and call you. I can say, hey Kev, it's Joe down at Grill 20, it's Chris at Grill 23. You're friends with Joe Shaker, I want to make sure that you're taken care of, or I can send you an email. Call me on my direct line, I'll get you a good table, and save room for dessert, I'm going to hook you up with a great dessert. So now it's not like I just referred somebody. They actually took the referral that was out there floating, and Grill 23 contacted you with some kiss butt service. You see that? No, but so it works. Then you go in, and then you buy, and then you say, I love this place, and then they follow up and go, I hope you enjoyed your dinner. We also own Post 390 and Harvest. Right. So they take a referral and try to turn them into a loyalist. So yeah, that works. I understand that, Joe. That's great. We get it. But what Doc is saying here is, how do you do that with Five Guys? Right. How do you do that with a $12 transactional item? What's the motivators? And what would our charge be to those cats? Obviously, those guys would instantly pay $100 a month because it's more volume and more throughput. We're still talking whole dollars the same. But what would shape behavior there? How could we execute the referral? Obviously. How would we track it? We know we can do that. But then the key for us is how would we do the reward? Because we ultimately think that if you track and you reward, that will force somebody to keep referring people there. So that is really the mainstream, is where we're having a tougher time.
Joe, I got one more presenter, so.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
That's
I just, I
right.
had to ask that question because 2 people hit on mainstream and that's gonna be our biggest problem. We got, Mark, I was trying to save you, dude. Sorry, Mark's done. Give him an A.
So I'm Mark, and actually going last is working out my favor because I could kind of just sweep up what everyone else didn't talk about. I actually used to work at Five Guys, so I guess I could provide some sort of inside information. So we've had a few people talk about rivals, but no one's actually talked about some of the referral software companies out there. A lot of them kind of take different approaches to referral marketing. Referral Candy provides companies with like emails or pop-ups after a purchase, so you could kind of, after you make a purchase, it's like refer 5 friends and we'll give you a discount. And I think a tactic like that isn't necessarily the best thing, because if I'm seeing something like that and I want to get that 10% discount, I'm going to find my 5 least favorite friends on Facebook or 5 people on my email address book that I just don't like, and they could spam that email address. Other approaches, Ambassador kind of uses their customers and their real loyal customers as brand ambassadors. Invitebox is like a platform or widget integrated onto the website, and none of these companies actually have applications where you could refer people right from your phone. Another note is a lot of these companies use commission as pricing rates, and I found that really interesting. In my research, I found that a lot of companies are using internal referrals as a way to find employees. A lot of you guys know Ernst & Young is a big corporate partner here at Bentley, and they find 45% of their non-entry level placements through internal employee recommendations, which is pretty remarkable. And in some of these articles, I found that there's a stigma in these job boards. So when companies are getting applications for like Monster.com or any of the other job sites, it's kind of looked down upon, and people are kind of trying to stay away from those job boards. Another thing is that internal referrals kind of put those people in the fast lane, and it gives you an opportunity to cut down on recruiting costs and just the whole pain and hassle of filling positions, and it just gets people into your company and fills positions quicker. And another thing is Sodexo, the company that does catering and food services here, find their referred employees are 10 times more likely to find a job. And as you can see through this, I kind of built a bowling alley strategy. I kind of made a few errors down here, but besides that, you could either take the approach of using the applications across different target markets, and you could even tap into the employee to HR whole industry. So you could develop a software for internal use, and you could also look at things like incentive calculators and other kind of different techniques to use for HR departments. And finally, a lot of these prospects people touched upon. I think someone told me recently that every person needs a good lawyer and a good doctor. And when you're going to go find a lawyer and doctor, you want to trust this person. They're kind of key influences in your life. If a doctor's going to tell you to get knee surgery, you're going to get knee surgery. If a lawyer is going to tell you to plead guilty, you're going to plead guilty. So I think this is a huge market that you could tap into, because people are looking for a lawyer and a doctor that they could trust and that they could respect. And a lot of ways that lawyers and doctors find customers and patients is through referrals. So I have MGH up here. They have like 13 or 14 locations within the greater Boston area, and that's not counting other private doctor offices. And then there's hundreds of thousands of lawyers just in the greater Boston area that you could tap into and use this referral app for that. Any questions?
Mark, did you talk about Referral Candy? You mentioned
Yes.
Ambassador and how does that service work?
Are you asking Referral Candy?
Referral Candy, yeah.
Referral Candy is a software that pretty much emails customers. So they either they work with your marketing plan to either email customers being like, hey, refer 5 friends and we'll give you this discount. Or they'll be using it through your e-commerce platform in your website. So after you make a purchase, they'll reach out to you.
And that's the one you were saying, it's a little bit more like spam. You could get spam.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not. It's kind of just like throwing name. It's kind of more like prospecting as opposed to referring someone that's trustworthy.
All right.
Yeah, that's it. And there's a few other companies like Invitebox which create a widget for your website, and that's something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Is nobody goes to a company's website to then try and do a referral.
Yeah.
And that's why those companies, they pop up, seems a good idea, everyone knows referrals work, and then nobody uses it and it goes away.
I feel like a lot of these softwares are just not as genuine as actually sharing a contact with somebody and making a referral, like Referon would be doing.
All right.
Good, excellent.
Thank you.
So, we've got